The sky above Earth was calm as the small silver ship entered its atmosphere. Inside the ship sat Relo, a young alien student sent by the Galactic Union. His skin was light blue, and his eyes glowed softly like two moons. He had come from a world far beyond the stars, a place where strength meant survival and peace was a myth. This was his first visit to Earth, and he had one purpose: watch the humans. Study their reaction to war. Report everything, Relo's teachers told him that humans were wild and dangerous. They said Earth's history was filled with violence and war. Now a new conflict had arrived. A nearby alien species had threatened a human space colony. Ships had been destroyed. Warnings had been sent. The galaxy expected Earth to strike back. The Galactic Union waited to see if humans would follow their old violent ways. Relo believed they would. He even hoped they would. He wanted to see what humans looked like when they prepared for battle. When his ship landed in a green field outside Earth's global peace center, no one welcomed him with weapons. A team of calm humans stood waiting. One of them stepped forward. His name was Commander Dale. His face was lined with age and experience. He did not smile, but there was no anger in his eyes. He gave Relo a slight nod and led him into the large glass building that reflected the blue sky. Inside, Relo saw humans working in silence. Screens showed images of space. Maps showed the position of enemy ships. Voices spoke softly through earpieces. No one shouted. No one looked afraid. This confused Relo. On his planet, war brought fire and chaos. People ran, people screamed. Here, it was different. Dale offered Relo a seat in the observation room. From here, Relo could see Earth's leaders sitting around a long table. They spoke in low tones. Their faces looked serious but calm. Relo leaned forward. He wanted to hear every word. He wanted to see the moment they gave the order to attack. One of the leaders asked if Earth's defenses were ready. A general answered yes. Another leader asked if the enemy ships had moved. The answer came quickly. They were holding position near the colony. Weapons charged, shields raised. Tension hung in the air like smoke before fire. Relo waited for the next word. He expected someone to shout. He expected someone to pound the table. He expected a decision for war. But none of these things happened. Instead, the main speaker asked a question that made Relo blink. "What message shall we send back?" "A message," Relo asked out loud before he could stop himself. Dale looked at him and nodded once. "Yes, a message. A message of peace. A request for talks. A signal that Earth still hopes for understanding." Relo felt a cold wave move through his body. He asked why. The enemy destroyed a colony. "Why offer peace now?" Dale answered without anger. "Because war is not the only answer, not the best one, not the strongest choice. It is only the easiest." Relo stared at him. He did not understand. In his world, to forgive was weakness. To wait was to die. To offer peace was to kneel. But Dale did not look weak. He looked steady like a mountain before a storm. Relo watched as the message was sent. It was simple. Earth does not wish to fight. We ask for dialogue. We are open to peaceful solution. Words moved through space like a gentle wind passing through a burning feld. Relo could not believe it. They had the chance to strike first. Their ships were ready, their weapons charged, yet they waited. They chose silence over fire. He turned to Dale again and asked, what if they laugh at this message? What if they see this as fear? Then we will face what comes, Dale said without moving. But at least we will not be the first to burn the sky. At least we will know we tried. Outside the glass wall, the sun was setting. A soft orange light filled the room. Relo sat in silence, his mind full of noise. This was not the Earth he expected. Not the humans he imagined. They were not weak. They were not afraid. They were something else, something rare. Time passed. The enemy did not respond yet. The humans did not change their position. Defenses stayed active. Ships remained still. The sky held its breath. Relo sent a message to his own planet. He told them Earth was preparing a hidden strike. He said the peace message was a trick. He believed this must be part of a clever plan. There was no other way to explain it, but deep inside something else started to grow. A question without form. A thought without voice. What if they are not pretending? What if they really want peace? The silence in the room felt louder than any. War drum. The humans waited. The alien student watched. And the stars above turned slowly, as if listening to the misunderstanding drawl walked through the long corridor of the Earth Command Center with questions racing inside his mind like wild winds through broken trees. His training told him humans were clever but violent. His book said they never forgave. His instructors warned that Earth was a world of fire and metal. But what he saw was different. There were no shouting officers. No cries for revenge. No hands reaching for weapons. Only calm faces. Only quiet work. He passed a screen that showed the colony which had been attacked. A small planet with green forests and clean air. Homes burned there. Smoke still rose. Human lives lost. The image burned into his memory. Still no order for attack. Still no missiles fired. He could not understand. Relo entered a room where a group of human scientists discussed power levels and shield signals. He stood there without speaking. One of them looked up and asked if he needed something. He shook his head. The man smiled and went back to his screen. Relo stayed quiet. He felt like a shadow in a world he could not touch. Later that evening, he met Dale again. The commander sat alone under the sky outside the base. The stars above were sharp and clear. A soft wind passed between the trees nearby. Relo asked if this stillness was real. Dale nodded. It is the only thing that feels real, right? Relo sat beside him. His voice was low. My people believe peace is a delay, not a solution. Mercy is a weakness, not a choice. Waiting is surrender. Dale did not answer right away. He looked at the stars as if searching for something hidden. Then he spoke. Long ago our world was at war. Our nations burned each other. People died over flags and ideas. Cities turned to ash. Generations vanished. When the war ended, there was nothing left to win. We learned that peace is not the easy way. It is the brave way. It is the harder path. It takes more strength to hold your hand still than to raise your weapon. Relo heard the words, but did not know how to feel them. On his planet, leaders fought for honor. They crushed their enemies to be remembered. They won by fear. He asked if humans had truly changed. Dale looked at him. Not all of us, but enough of us. And sometimes enough is all it took. Relo walked back into the command center. His eyes caught a new update. The enemy had responded. No peace yet, just another warning. More ships moved toward Earth's second colony. The situation had become worse. Humans now had more reason to attack. Still no order for war. Relo felt heat rise in his chest. He believed he had waited long enough. He reached for his communicator and opened a private channel. His home world answered. He reported the truth as he understood it. Earth is waiting. They say they want peace. But I think they are planning something. A surprise strike. They want the enemy to believe they are soft, then they will crush them. His leader asked how sure he was. Relo replied with confidence. This calm cannot be real. They must be hiding their true plan. His leader told him to stay and keep watching. Every move must be recorded. Trust no one. Relo ended the call and looked around again. No signs of war, no hidden messages, no secret meetings. Just quiet strength. Just still hope. Next morning, the enemy sent another signal. Harsh words, threats. They called humans weak. They warned of total destruction. Human leaders gathered once more. The room was quiet again. No panic. One of them asked if it was time to respond. Another asked if peace was still possible. A third said maybe one last message before final steps. Relo sat at the edge of the room. He wanted to stand and shout. He wanted to ask if they had forgotten their people, their colony. They're dead, but he stayed quiet. Dale rose to speak. He looked around the room. If we attack now, we become what they expect. If we fight without trying again, we lose more than lives. We lose our chance to be something better. Let them remember we offered peace more than once. Let them see our strength is not in fire but in control. The message was sent. Clear and calm. Earth is ready to defend, but still open to peace. Still waiting for reason. Relo walked out without a word. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there ships were moving. Weapons were armed, tension growing like a storm ready to break. And down here humans waited. Strong and silent. He could not explain what he felt. It was not fear, not anger. It was something new, a strange kind of respect. A small spark of understanding. In the quiet hallway he saw a group of human children visiting the center. They looked up at the screens with wide eyes. One of them asked a soldier if war was coming. The soldier knelt and said, "We hope not. We always hope no." Relo turned away. His heart felt heavy, not from sorrow, from confusion, from change, from questions that had no answers. Back in his room, he looked at the small flag of his world. A sharp symbol, a sign of dominance. He placed it down gently. His eyes returned to the Earth flag. Simple lines. A symbol of unity. Relo whispered to himself, what if they are not pretending? What if this peace is not a trap? What if they really believe in mercy? Outside, the enemy ships kept moving. Inside, Earth waited. Relo stood at the window as the stars turned above once more. The test of peace. The sky above Earth's second colony was no longer quiet. Enemy ships moved like dark clouds drifting across stars. Lights blinked along their hulls. Weapons armed, targets locked. Every signal showed that they were ready to strike. From orbit, their presence spread fear across the colony. People watched the skies and waited. They knew war could begin at any moment. Far away on Earth, Relo watched these events unfold on a large screen. The humans beside him worked fast but stayed calm. No one screamed. No one begged for orders. He saw technicians checking shield codes. He saw officers adjusting satellite paths. The world was preparing not for attack, but for protection. Relo could not stop the questions inside his mind. Why no reply with fire? Why not launch first? The enemy was ready. They mocked Earth. They dared humans to act. Still the same answer came from Earth's command. Hold position. Hold peace. Dale entered the room with quiet steps. His face showed no fear, only focus. He stood before the main table where leaders met again. They listened to reports without panic. One leader said the enemy was within final range. Another said the colony had requested evacuation. A third warned that another hour of silence might invite destruction. Still they chose to wait. Relo stood near the window. Outside he saw children in the garden playing. One boy chased a paper plane. A girl laughed as the wind lifted her hat. None of them knew how close war had come. Or maybe they knew but trusted the sky would stay whole. A message appeared on the screen. It came from the enemy commander. The voice was cold. The words were sharp. Humans must surrender now or face complete destruction. There will be no third warning. Earth has shown no strength. You will not survive. Relo turned to Dale. This must be the final moment. He expected Earth to respond with force. He expected the sky to flash with fire. But Dale nodded and said, "Send one more message." Calm voice. No threat, no fear. Just truth. The message was sent. Earth does not wish for war, but Earth will defend its people. You stand before a world that has known fire and walked through ashes. You may test our walls, but do not mistake our silence for weakness. We will not strike first, but we will not fall. Relo watched the message cross the stars. He held his breath. No reply came. Minutes passed. The room stayed still outside. The enemy ships continued to move. They circled the colony. They drew closer. Relo saw fear in the eyes of one technician, but her hand stayed steady. He saw the tension in the shoulders of a guard, but his eyes remained clear. Relo walked out into the night. The wind was strong now. Leaves moved across the ground like whispers. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there the choice was being made. He could feel I've remembered the war stories of his own people. Battles fought in silence. Weapons hidden behind smiles. Peace used as a trick. That was the way he had been taught. But now he saw something new, something strange. Humans were not playing games. They were not using peace as a weapon. They believed in. Ith closed his eyes. A small memory came back. A lesson from his childhood. His first teacher once told him that stars watch everything, that they remember every choice made below them. That peace leaves a longer shadow than war. He had forgotten that lesson. Inside the command room, the alert sirens began to hum. The enemy fleet had reached final distance. One human ship moved to block the path. A warning shot came from the enemy. It hit the shield but caused no damage. The Earth ship stayed in place, did not fire back. Relo rushed in. He saw the flashing lights. He heard voices reporting enemy activity. Still no order to return fire. The enemy commander sent another message. This is your final chance. Surrender or be erased. Dale stood without speaking. He looked at the faces around him. Each person waited. Each one ready. He gave a simple reply. No surrender. No first striker. Relo stared at the screen. His mind screamed. His heart pounded. He wanted to understand. He wanted to believe this was right. The enemy ship powered its main weapon. It aimed at the colony, then paused. A long moment passed. The stars seemed to wake too suddenly. The enemy weapon powered down. The ship turned. One by one the enemy fleet began to move away. No attack. No war. Just silence and retreat. The room filled with deep breath. Relo could not speak. His voice lost inside the storm of thought. The humans had not fired, had not threatened, had not fallen. And yet the enemy left. Dale looked at him. Sometimes the hardest war is the one we choose not to fight. Relo walked out into the night again. The stars above were still shining. No smoke. No fire. Just light. The children were still playing. Peace had passed its test. The turning point. The stars above. Earth blinked quietly, as if they too were unsure what had just happened. Ships had moved into position. Weapons had been ready. Death had stood at the gate and waited. Then it had turned away. No warning, no battle, no victory chant. Just silence inside the command center. The people of Earth watched the enemy fleet pull back. The screens showed every ship turning in order one by one, slow and steady. Not a retreat of fear, but a step back with thought. Like something had changed inside the enemy. Like some barrier inside their mind had cracked. Relo stood still, his eyes fixed on the last ship as it vanished into the dark sky beyond Earth's moon. His hands hung by his sides, no longer tight, no longer restless. The moment felt unreal, not because it was quiet, but because it was powerful. The leaders of Earth said no words for several long minutes. They only looked at one another as if to confirm that it was not a dream. Then one by one they nodded. Not in celebration, not in relief, but in respect. Commander Dale moved to the window where the light from space filtered in soft and pale. He said nothing. Relo walked to stand beside him, and for a while neither of them spoke. Relo felt something heavy inside him. Not the weight of fear or confusion, but something else. The kind of weight that comes when truth settles inside the heart. He asked Dale why the enemy had turned back. Dale gave no easy answer. Maybe they saw their own reflection in our stillness. Maybe they found fear in our peace. Or maybe they saw strength where they expected weakness. Later that evening, a new message arrived. This time not from a voice full of pride, but from one filled with pause. The enemy commander spoke again, but his tone had changed. He said his people would open talks, not surrender, not apology, but willingness to speak. Earth accepted without delay the first peace dialogue in galactic history between Earth and the enemy began not with terms or demands, but with a question. Why did you not fire? The answer from Earth came in many forms. Through stories, through history, through the voice of people who had learned that not every threat needs to be met with fire. They spoke of pain that war brings not just to enemies, but to everyone. They spoke of children and cities and songs lost to battles that could have been avoided. Relo listened to every word with a mind that was no longer trying to prove humans wrong. He listened with a heart that was trying to understand how this species had changed the path of war without raising a weapon. He remembered how on his world leaders ruled through fear, how peace was treated like weakness, how schools taught children to strike first before being struck. He remembered his own pride when he was sent to Earth. He thought he would witness the fall of a wild race. Instead, he saw the rise of something higher. One night he sat alone on the grass outside the base. The stars above were calm again. A soft wind passed by, as if the planet itself was breathing slowly after holding its breath for too long. A small group of human soldiers passed by, speaking quietly about their families, about their homes, about the future. They had stayed ready through the whole crisis, yet never been ordered to fear. Relo looked up at the sky and wondered what story would now be told in the stars. Would other races understand what had happened here? Would they believe it? Would they learn? He walked back inside and found Dale reading a file on his screen. Relo asked him what Earth planned now. Dale looked up and said, "Build. Not ships, not bombs. Bridges, connections." Trust. Relo nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt that the word peace had meaning, not just sound. The enemy soon sent a team of their own to visit Earth. Not soldiers, not spies. Thinkers, observers. People who had never believed that peace could protect. People who wanted to see how Earth had changed from a planet of war to a planet of balance. Relo met them at the landing field. He stood where he had once arrived and watched as the enemy stepped out with the same caution he once had. He saw their eyes scanning every face, every movement, every detail. But he also saw something else: curiosity, wonder, doubt. He stepped forward and welcomed them. His voice steady, his words clear. "You are not wrong to be careful," he said, "but you are wrong to believe that peace is silence. Peace is choice." The hardest one. The leader of the enemy team looked at him with surprise. "You speak like them now. I understand them now," Relo replied, "and perhaps one day you will too." In the days that followed, humans and aliens sat in the same rooms, ate at the same tables, walked in the same gardens. They shared ideas, not weapons. They built understanding, not fear. Relo continued his reports to the Galactic Union, but his tone had changed. No longer did he speak of Earth as a threat. Now he spoke of Earth as a lesson. The message reached deep across space. Leaders from distant planets began to ask questions. Some in anger, some in doubt, but they asked. And that was a beginning. Peace had not come from surrender. It had not come from power. It had come from the hardest decision a species can make: to stay its hand when the sky calls for war. The lesson: the sky remained calm above Earth, its colors soft as the days moved forward. No ships hovered above cities. No sirens broke the peace. No tension flowed through the streets. Instead, the air held something new, not silence, not fear, but stillness with purpose. Relo stood at the edge of the global peace center. His time on Earth had come to an end. He had watched the planet walk close to war. He had seen humans hold back when fire seemed easier. He had felt the pull of confusion inside his heart. But now he stood clear, changed. Certain a message from the Galactic Union arrived in the early morning. It carried words of recognition. Earth would be offered a seat in the Council, not just as a new member, but as an example. A species once known for destruction had shown wisdom in restraint. They had passed a test that many believed impossible. Rilo prepared his final report. The words came slower than before. Not because he lacked truth, but because truth now carried weight. His hand moved over the panel as he recorded his final statement. He spoke of the crisis, the enemy fleet, the missed war. But he did not speak of victory. He spoke of choice, of the path not taken, of a planet that decided to break the cycle. He walked through the halls of the center one last time. Every face he passed reminded him of moments he had not understood before. A child giving food to a bird outside the window. A technician leaving flowers near a nameplate. A young officer writing a letter to someone waiting far away. These small things now held meaning he had never seen before. Outside near the open field, a group of children played. Their laughter rose like music into the air. They held no fear of falling ships, no nightmares of sudden fire. They ran across the grass without looking up at the sky. They believed in peace because they had seen it. Windale stood near the gate watching the same sky, his hands behind his back, his gaze steady. Rilo joined him. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Rilo asked, "What if the enemy had not turned back? What if war had come anyway?" Dale answered without turning. "Then we would have faced it, but not with anger, with duty, with defense. Not with the desire to destroy, but with the will to protect. The difference is everything." Grylo nodded. He asked, "What made Earth change? What turned them from a world of fire into a world of bridges?" Dale looked at him. "Pain, loss, memory, and time. When you see the same mistake again and again, you either become it or you break it." Rilo looked out over the hills. The wind passed through the trees and waves. The sunlight rested gently across the land. There was no storm coming. Only light. The enemy representatives remained on Earth. Their visit extended by choice. They met with thinkers, with families, with students. They asked questions with honest curiosity. They listened. Slowly they began to speak differently. Not in the tone of warriors, but in the tone of learners. One day, the enemy lead observer stood before a group of human children. He told them that once his kind believed that mercy was weakness, but now he had seen another side. He had felt the strength it takes to wait. He had seen it in the eyes of people who had every reason to strike, but chose not to. Rilo watched this moment and wrote it down. He titled it "The Day the Voice Changed." Before leaving Earth, he visited the memorial of the lost colony, the place where names were written in stone. Not as a mark of war, but as a mark of memory. No fire was shown in the images. Only faces, only lives. The colony had fallen. But from that loss, peace had risen. He touched one name gently. Not because he knew the person, but because he now understood the cost of every choice. His ship waited at the edge of the city, small, silent, ready to carry him home. He turned one last time and looked at the world that had taught him what no book ever had. That power was not always found in force. That strength was not the same as rage. That peace was not the space between battles, but a decision made again. And again, even when Dale walked up to him with a small gift. A paper folded into the shape of a bird. A message without words. Rilo accepted it with both hands. "Thank you," he said. "For everything. You carry the story now," Dale replied. "Make sure it grows." The ship rose slowly into the sky. Rilo looked down as the planet grew smaller. Cities, rivers, forests, all glowing under the light of a sun that now watched over peace. When he reached his world, he gave his report before the highest council. He showed no weapons, no battle charts, only moments, only decisions. He told them how Earth had been ready for war, how the enemy had waited for fire, but how fire never came. Some council members questioned his view. Others called it rare. A few called it foolish. But no one dismissed it. The seed had been planted. Relo ended his report with a sentence he would carry for the rest of his life. Peace is not a lack of war. It is the victory of will over fear, and somewhere deep in the stars, a story began to travel. A story of humans who had once burned worlds but now chose to heal them. A story of silence that became strength, of mercy that became memory. A story that would shape the future long after the ships were gone. The end.